officer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Sam Olson is the field director for the Chicago office of ICE. And,
Ice, baby.
Yeah, ICE, that's what I'm talking about.
Maybe Kristi Noem will come and visit like she did. She was in New York yesterday.
She looked resplendent in that flak jacket.
She's a good-looking lady.
Towel off. Take it easy over there. Sam Olson saying what Tom Homan's been saying, what has been repeatedly substantiated, and what still cannot penetrate the consciousness of the Chicago and Illinois political ruling class, the CPS superintendent, the Chicago press corps.
What we're doing is we're targeting the worst first, right? That's who we're getting. We're focusing on those targets. We're not targeting people in schools. We're not targeting people in churches. We're targeting people who are the worst. There's a chance they're going to go to some of those places, and this administration has kind of taken some of the handcuffs off of us in a way, right? Where we're leaving the discretion with our officers, and our officers are trained to make good decisions out there, and we support them. And that's the one thing that we have to realize. These officers now, when we could have arrested somebody at a safe facility, right, a jail or a court lockup with one or two officers, and now we have to go out into the streets. Now most of our teams are at least 10 agents and officers trying to arrest one individual.
Mm-hmm. And Chicago Police Chief Larry Snelling concurs.
We have not seen federal agents running through Chicago looking for children, going to work locations and grabbing people.
But despite that fact, BLM Brandon wants you to know nothing has changed with his posture. He is none too pleased with ICE's presence because
Chicago is a welcoming city. Regardless of who's in the White House, Chicago is a city that opens its arms to people from around the globe. We will continue to protect civil and human rights.
Exactly. So is Cook County, so is Illinois. They will continue to protect human rights of people in this country illegally who've committed violent crimes, like the 100 people that ICE has picked up in Chicago since tactical operations began. I guess that makes sense to the electorate here. I don't know how else to describe it. For more on this, we're pleased to be joined by former Riverside police chief, now retired, Tom Weitzel. Tom, thanks for being with us. Appreciate it.
Hey, good morning, Dan and Amy. Glad to be with you.
Let's see. So we made the point earlier that according to ABC News, there's a bunch of immigrants that are being picked up by ICE. Is it immigrants?
No, completely false. If that's the narrative that's out there, it's dangerous. I mean, very dangerous. They're putting out. I read a story that they were targeting a grandfather who's been in the country for 30 years, and ICE came with 9 officers to the home and took him into custody. That's not what's happening. They didn't happen to mention his background. They didn't happen to mention the other violent offenders. But what happens when you put out those narratives is there's going to be a confrontation. So, there's going to be a situation where somebody resists or somebody fires through a door when ICE shows up, and the police or ICE has to fire back. They're creating this very violent encounter that's going to happen. And I'm telling you that's going to happen, and it's going to happen somewhere. Whether it's Chicago or some other state, they're building national news and local news is building this. The ISIS is the evil, and it's going to come back.
Well, they can't even follow their own propaganda. I mean, this is a statement. They're relying on all of the government school-educated residents of Chicagoland. ABC 7. A suburban family said a man living in the United States without legal permission who had not committed any crimes. Wait, what? Stop. He's living in the United States without legal permission, but he hadn't committed any crimes. This is the how many illegal immigrants have committed a crime. All of them. You just described the crime. but this disconnect that the politicians are able to create in the mind of at least some of the body politic never ceases to amaze.
And the ICE, local ICE director for Chicago, in his statement you play is absolutely right. When they have to send 8, 10, 12 officers out because they can't go into the lockup facilities, they can't pull them from there, which is much easier. And it's crazy. I haven't seen this frenzy. Do you know that the Chicago Sun-Times was running a live blog on ICE? I've never seen that before in any police operation, any warrants, any sweeps, any drug operation. They were running a live blog for ICE investigations, or ICE, what they would call targeting. That's how it's gotten out of control. It's just out of control. And I was told by a police officer friend of mine lately that the Department of Homeland Security puts out these briefings to law enforcement. And now the chiefs and the commanders aren't sending those to the officers because ICE is in Chicago. And for example, they'll put out a briefing that says this gang member's in the city of Chicago and they have threatened on their social media to injure or shoot police. They used to routinely distribute that at roll call or by email. Now they're withholding Department of Homeland Security safety bulletins. I've never seen that in all my years.
Yeah, this weekend, my head was spinning about like the reporters. It's like they're chasing space heater fires back in the 90s. Like now we're in Albany, now we're in Elgin, now we're in Logan Square, and they're just waiting for that shot of a mom being torn away from her kid. It's like they're foaming at the mouth for that moment, don't you think?
Absolutely. They're foaming for that. They're foaming for ICE having to physically tackle somebody to the ground, have to forcefully fight with them. They're waiting for that moment that's going to be on their 10 o'clock news. It's going to lead that this is what's going on not only in the Chicago area but throughout the nation, and it's completely false narrative.
Are we going to hear from other local law enforcement around the Chicagoland area, especially around the state would be nice too, but particularly around the Chicagoland area because they're normally so quiet. So you just heard from Snelling. He was able to speak truth to power, to borrow a phrase, at that press conference yesterday. We're hearing from you, who was retired. Where are the other suburban police chiefs and Collier County prosecutors talking about this and making clear that if you're taking the antagonistic position that Pritzker and Brandon Johnson, Tony Preckwinkle et al., and the Chicago Press Corps are taking towards picking up violent predators in this country illegally, then you're running interference for violent predators. Don't tell me that, of course, removing violent predators, public safety threats who are in this country illegal, of course, we're all for that. No, you're not. No, you're not. Not if you support these policies and these politicians that are behaving the way they are vis-a-vis ICE.
Yeah, those same politicians, whether it be the mayor, village presidents, and the suburban communities, trustees, they are directing their police chiefs to not cooperate. They already know that. There's the state sanctuary, but they are reaching out to their chiefs saying, absolutely stay away from this issue, make no public comments. Don't attend any press conferences if you like your job. And that's what's happening because, those police chiefs are appointed. They're not, the only one that has a little bit of leeway are sheriffs, but not here in Cook County. It's more the sheriffs in central and southern Illinois because they're elected. So they can't
in the Collier counties, they could speak. They're elected.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
In Collier, can we have
Cook County?
I understand, but have we missed anybody? Have you heard of any Collier County sheriff addressing this?
Yeah, I've seen some social media posts from sheriffs in central and southern Illinois.
No, in Collier counties. Collier counties.
No, I have not. I have not seen a single police chief, sheriff, other command level, and you can bet that that's exactly what's happening. They're being told, if you like your job, stay out of it.
So, it's just fascinating because school superintendents feel completely empowered to be publicly antagonistic towards ICE. We've heard from Barrington, we've heard from Western Springs, and yet mayors, village officials, county board, I'm talking about in the Collier counties now, because this is where the action is. Nobody's saying anything. What an indictment. What an indictment of all of those Collier County politicians at the local and county level. And I hope some people listening, as I've been saying for weeks on end, will challenge your local elected officials. It's great to cheer on Trump and Tom Homan from the sidelines. How about where you live and what your elected officials are or are not doing?
For sure. And, it doesn't make sense. People would come, when I was chief of Riverside, residents and politicians would say, make sure that we make the village safe. Do everything. Like they would be on me to increase traffic enforcement, increase DUI enforcement, to look for these burglary suspects that would, burglarize these higher-end homes. They were on me all the time to get these violent offenders, make arrests. But when it comes to this situation we're talking about with ICE enforcement, who have violent offenders, they tell you to stay out of it.
Yeah, and all of these suburban ostriches who I think delude themselves into believing that illegal immigrant crime is something that just Chicago has to deal with in big cities. There, but for the grace of God, go they in the same position as the Abraham family or the Polizin family of Deerfield, those two girls, young ladies who were killed by an illegal immigrant in a hit and run in Urbana. Two 21-year-old girls gone because of the lawlessness that is platformed in this state by politicians. And it's something that I would expect, I know you've spoken out about it, that I would expect some people to speak out about. And yet, as you said, what do we get? The ostriches in the suburbs bearing their heads even further.
Right. There's no police chief I know of, no superintendent, no, even in the Collier County sheriffs. They're not challenging this. This is just as much of the politicians hating Trump as it is they don't want the ICE enforcement. There's a lot of smoke and mirrors going on, and so it's BS. I don't know what else to say, but there's just BS, and police officers are going to get hurt. And there's hundreds, just so your listeners know, hundreds, if not thousands, of individuals being held in custody throughout the state that have ICE holds that cannot be turned over to ICE right now.
Right. Speak to that. Speak to, because I saw you tweet about that, about, the illegal immigrants committing crimes in the suburbs. I mean, this is not new. There's been Venezuelan theft rings at Oak Brook Mall and other such instances, but speak to that.
Sure. There's been these illegals that come into the country and they're committing big crimes at malls. So if you look at Oak Brook, Lombard, North Riverside, even out in Vernon Hills, they're running into these individuals that have no identification, no. You can't even find out who they are, really, because they won't let you access the ICE data. You can't even access the Homeland Security database when you have somebody in custody. They're all lying about their names. And think about this. They're in the country 3 days, and they're living in Chicago somewhere, and they drive a car out to Oak Brook Mall, and they commit $5,000 retail thefts and stuff. Where did they get the car? Like, how did they even know where Oak Brook is? You know what I mean? That's a calculated... Somebody is helping them do those crimes.
Well, we had an Alderman Lopez on here, and he said that they were giving the illegals cars that were unclaimed from the Chicago Pound.
That's nice of them.
Yeah. I mean, come on. And then they all talk to each other. So they know. I remember the 5 kids that, I don't know if they're kids, but young adults who robbed a number of places at the Oak Brook Mall. They were laughing at officers when they arrested them, because they knew darn well the laws here that they're not going to keep you because of the Safety Act, and they were released right away. And did any of them show up for their court appearance? Not a single one.
No. And then, you know what? They put a warrant out for their arrest, and it sits there forever.
Yeah.
It's out in space forever. They can't even, there's this warrant that'll be there 10 years from now. It's never going to be served.
Tom Weitzel, retired chief of police, the village of Riverside. Tom, thanks for joining us as always. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Dan and Amy. Have a great morning.
You too. Thank you so much. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Connect with Dan and Amy using the AM 560 mobile app. Download it today at 560theanswer.com/mobile.
It's a new year, but the need continues. Hi, Amy Jacobson here to let you know that you could still be part of our annual Food for the Poor campaign. We are working to provide food for a year and access to water to children in Latin America and the Caribbean. And we need you to help us reach our goal. We are so close, especially if you own or run a business or make the marketing decisions for a business. You can still become a business benefactor by making a tax-deductible gift of